The movie kicks off in a dingy Alaskan motel where Winston, a mob accountant, is whipping up some instant chicken noodles. He keeps peeking out the window like he's expecting trouble, and sure enough, trouble arrives in the form of Deputy U.S. Marshal Madeline and her team. They storm in, slam Winston onto the bed, and Madeline makes it clear she's not impressed with his hideout skills. Winston, realizing the jig is up, cuts a deal. He'll testify against his mafia boss, Moretti, but only if he gets top-tier protection. Otherwise, he's a dead man walking.
Whoa! It's chicken noodle.
Madeline agrees, and the two head to the airport to catch a private jet to New York. Once on board, Madeline isn't taking any chances. She chains Winston to his seat like he's Houdini on a bad day. The pilot, a guy named Daryl, shows up and suggests Madeline sit in the back with Winston, just in case he tries something. Madeline brushes it off, confident her restraints will hold. Winston, ever the chatterbox, corrects Daryl, clarifying he's not a fugitive, but a cooperating government witness. Madeline shuts him down with a look, and the plane takes off, leaving the frozen Alaskan wilderness behind. As the plane soars over the jagged mountains, things start to get bumpy. Literally, Madeline asks the pilot about the turbulence, but he's too busy jamming out to whatever's playing in his headphones to hear her. Once they hit 3,000 feet, Madeline spots a nasty bruise on the pilot's neck and calls him out on it. He brushes it off, claiming it's from some maintenance work. Sure, buddy. Just as the tension starts to simmer, a bird smacks into the plane, sending it into a brief tailspin. The pilot manages to steady the aircraft. Meanwhile, Winston, still chained to his seat, spots something on the floor, using his foot like a makeshift claw machine. He drags it closer and discovers the real pilot's license, belonging to someone named Daryl. The guy flying the plane? Definitely not Daryl. Winston's eyes widen as he realizes they're in deep trouble.
Oh, shit.
He tries to get Madeline's attention, but she's got her headphones on and can't hear him. Desperate, he bites off a button from his shirt and spits it at her. Madeline finally looks his way, but when Winston claims he dropped something and urges her to check the floor, she dismisses him. Things take another suspicious turn when the pilot hands Winston a paper bag to help him calm down. Madeline, ever the sharp observer, notices blood on the pilot's shoulder. Her instincts kick in, and the pieces start falling into place. This guy isn't just a bad pilot, he's bad news.
Can I radio ATC on these? I need to check in. Protocol.
Yeah, all right, sure. November 208 uniform, come in.
Nothing?
Must be the mountains blocking the signal.
The pilot, realizing the cover is blown, drops the act and reveals his true identity. He's a hitman sent by Moretti to silence Winston for good. Madeline, quick on the draw, pulls out her gun, but the hitman disarms her in a flash, tossing the weapon aside. She throws a punch, but he counters with a knife and a brutal beating, making it clear he's not there for her. Winston is the target. He handcuffs Madeline to the front seat and gets back to flying, leaving her helpless but far from defeated. A few minutes later, the hitman turns his attention to Winston, taunting him about Moretti's disappointment. Winston, ever the negotiator, tries to buy his way out of this mess. He offers a cool $1 million in crypto and even throws in a story about some guy in Massachusetts who got paid $25,000 a month for a year. But the hitman isn't interested in Winston's get-rich-quick schemes.
Do I look like the kind of guy who deals in fucking crypto?
He shuts him down with a sharp "shut up," leaving Winston out of options. Meanwhile, Madeline, regaining her senses, sees the hitman moving in to strangle her. Thinking fast, she secretly pulls out her taser and jams it into his neck. He convulses and collapses, but it's not over yet. He comes to and lunges at her again, forcing her to keep shocking him. The struggle sends the plane into a nosedive, the controls going haywire as the electrical shocks wreak havoc. Madeline fights to steady the aircraft, her hands gripping the yoke as the ground rushes closer. Just when it seems like they're about to crash, she manages to pull the plane back up, saving them from certain doom. The hitman, now unconscious again, is kicked to the back seat, and Madeline takes control. With the hitman finally subdued, they cuff him securely to ensure he can't cause any more trouble. Winston, still shaken, urges her to just shoot him and be done with it, but Madeline insists they need him alive. He's evidence, and his testimony could bring down Moretti. As she searches the hitman's pockets, she finds something chilling: photos of her, Winston, and even Winston's mom's house. This guy had been stalking them long before they boarded the plane. They drag the unconscious hitman to the back seat and double-check his restraints, making sure he's not going anywhere. Madeline then takes the pilot's seat, But there's one glaring problem. She doesn't know how to fly a plane. She tries contacting the tower for help, but after a few attempts, the radio cuts out completely.
Can anyone hear me? Mayday, mayday, mayday.
Just as panic starts to creep in, she remembers her satellite phone. She quickly dials her superior, Caroline Van Sant, and fills her in on the chaos unfolding mid-air. She explains that the so-called pilot is actually one of Moretti's men, and now she's the one flying the plane. On autopilot, thankfully, Van Sant promises to find a pilot to guide her and hangs up, leaving Madeline to deal with the mess. But the hitman isn't done yet. He wakes up and starts taunting them, refusing to give his real name. Madeline points her gun at him. The hitman, however, warns her that shooting him would be a death sentence for everyone on board. The bullet could pierce the fuel tank and blow the plane to smithereens. Madeline, keeping her cool, offers him a deal. Guide her in flying the plane, and she'll make sure he gets a peaceful prison sentence. He laughs it off, clearly not interested in playing nice. Just then, Madeline's satellite phone rings again. It's a pilot named Hassan, who's been sent to help her navigate the plane. But before diving into the technical details, Hassan decides to break the tension with some lighthearted flirting, suggesting they grab dinner once she lands safely. Madeline, though focused on survival, can't help but roll her eyes at his timing.
And what are you doing after this?
Excuse me? You want to have dinner with me?
Yeah, if you insist.
Of course. Fair's fair.
That is a verbal commitment, and I'm going to hold you to it.
And hey, if you're enjoying this recap so far, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more thrilling stories. After a few minutes of Hassan's playful banter, he finally gets down to business, guiding Madeline through the plane's controls and instruments. She's a quick learner, and soon enough, she's got the hang of it. Hassan assures her she can call him anytime if she needs more help, leaving Madeline to focus on keeping the plane in the air. Meanwhile, the fake pilot, still cuffed in the back, starts singing some obnoxious tune, clearly trying to get under her skin. Madeline ignores him, keeping her eyes on the horizon. But then, the hitman shifts tactics. He brings up Winston's mother, calling her sweet and lovely, and casually mentioning he'll pay her a visit once he breaks free. Winston is horrified. How does this guy know his mom's address? He tells Madeline he only shared it with the U.S. Attorney's Office, meaning there's a leak somewhere. Before they can process this, Van Sant calls with an update. A fighter jet is on its way to escort them to safety. She also drops a bombshell. The real pilot, Daryl, was found brutally murdered in his apartment, confirming the hitman's viciousness. Just as Madeline processes this, a massive mountain looms ahead. The plane nearly collides with it, but Madeline pulls off a sharp turn at the last second, scraping the mountain but managing to climb higher. Meanwhile, the hitman spots a knife on the floor and tries to grab it with his foot, failing miserably. Undeterred, he decides to mess with Madeline's head, revealing a dark secret from her past. She was responsible for the death of a witness 2 years ago. Madeline's composure cracks and she storms over to him, demanding to know how he knows about this. His taunts make one thing clear. Someone in her department is feeding information to Moretti.
Oh, hell, come on. I haven't even used my safe word yet.
Yeah, it's burned alive.
Winston, confused and alarmed, asks Madeline what the hitman is talking about. Reluctantly, she opens up about her past. 2 years ago, she was tasked with protecting Maria, a young woman set to testify against her cartel boss boyfriend. Madeline broke protocol by leaving Maria alone in the bathroom to shower, and during that time, someone firebombed the room, killing Maria. The incident shattered her superior's trust in her and haunted her ever since. As she explains, the hitman continues his struggle to break free. Just then, Van Sant calls again. Madeline confronts her, accusing someone in the Marshal's office of leaking information to Moretti. Van Sant, furious at the accusation, insists she personally vetted her entire team and that such a breach is impossible. The call ends abruptly. Suspicious of Van Sant's involvement, Madeline decides to escalate things. She contacts her director, Coleridge, and voices her concerns about Van Sant potentially leaking information. Coleridge assures her he'll handle it and even gives her his personal number, mentioning she can reach him directly at his beach house in Massachusetts if needed.
She needs to be contained and...
I understand, Deputy. Believe me, I'll shut her down.
Madeline hangs up, but something about his tone doesn't sit right with her. As the plane continues its journey, they finally reach the coastline. Madeline calls Hassan again, who instructs her to turn left and follow the coastline east to prepare for landing. But as she processes his instructions, a memory nags at her. She turns to Winston and asks about the $25,000 monthly payments he mentioned earlier, specifically where the money was sent. Winston reveals the payments went to Massachusetts, and it clicks for Madeline. Coleridge is the mole. His beach house, the payments, it all adds up. The director has been selling them out to the mafia all along.
Holy shit.
Before she can act on this revelation, chaos erupts. The hitman, who'd been quietly working to free himself, suddenly breaks loose. He stabs Winston twice with a knife and lunges at Madeline, choking her with brutal force. She struggles to reach her gun, but he snatches it away. As he tightens his grip, he taunts her.
You wanna know my name, huh? Come on, I'll give you 3 guesses.
Just as she's about to lose consciousness, Winston, despite his injury, pulls the knife from his own chest and cuts the strap choking Madeline. She gasps for air. The hitman, now armed with Madeline's gun, starts firing at her. She ducks behind a seat, narrowly avoiding the bullets. Spotting a flare gun in the first aid kit, she grabs it and fires, hitting the hitman square in the chest. He screams as the flare burns into him, and Madeline doesn't stop there. She grabs a fire extinguisher and slams it into him, knocking him down. With the immediate threat neutralized, she rushes to Winston, applying pressure to his wound to stop the bleeding. She calls Hassan again, updating him on the situation and instructing him to be ready for their landing. She increases the plane's speed, desperate to get Winston medical attention as quickly as possible. Winston, weak and fading, apologizes to Madeline, blaming himself for everything. He begs her to check on his mother if he doesn't make it. Madeline reassures him, telling him his mom will be fine and that he needs to focus on staying alive. Just then, Coleridge calls. He coldly informs Madeline that Van Sant has just died in a car accident. Madeline explodes, accusing him of being a traitor and leaking information to the mafia.
25 grand a month? Check your records, you got sloppy.
Oh, you want to compare records, Deputy Harris?
Coleridge dismisses her, saying no one will believe her because of her past mistakes, but Madeline isn't backing down. She vows to bring him to justice, threatening to see him in New York. As the plane descends toward the runway, Hassan calls Madeline one last time, guiding her through the final steps of landing. She spots the runway ahead and focuses all her energy on keeping the plane steady.
Okay, you are cleared to land. Line up your nose with the spot on the near edge of the runway and cut your throttle back to 25%.
But just as she's about to touch down, the hitman, battered but relentless, breaks free again and lunges for the controls, trying to force the plane back into the air. Madeline shoves him away and fires a shot into his legs, stopping him in his tracks. The plane wobbles dangerously, and Hassan's voice crackles through the radio, urging her to stabilize it. To make matters worse, the fuel runs out and the engine sputters to a stop. Hassan reassures her that she doesn't need the engine to land, she just needs to keep the plane steady. Madeline grips the controls, determined. The plane skims the runway, bouncing and shaking as parts of it begin to break apart. The hitman, still struggling, is thrown from the plane during the rough landing and is tragically struck by an ambulance, ending his violent rampage. Finally, the plane screeches to a halt. Emergency vehicles swarm the scene, and Winston is quickly loaded into an ambulance. Madeline steps out, exhausted but relieved, just as Hassan arrives in person. They share a smile, a brief moment of connection after the chaos they've endured. But Madeline's instincts kick in again when she notices a suspicious officer sneaking into the ambulance where Winston is being treated. She sprints over and catches the officer trying to suffocate Winston with a plastic bag. Without hesitation, she shoots him, saving Winston once more. As Winston gasps for air, Madeline pulls him into a tight hug, her relief palpable. Hassan watches from a distance. The tension of the moment is shattered when a phone rings. It's the corrupt officer's phone. Madeline answers, and Director Coleridge's voice comes through, asking if the job is done. Madeline, her voice steady and fierce, replies,
No, Director Coleridge, it's not done. You are.
Well, that's the end of this recap. If you enjoyed this movie, consider subscribing for more interesting stories. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.